And here we are with game 2 between Phoenix King and SPB here. SPB's taken Norsca, and he's got a beautiful mammoth war shrine here. Wulfric the Wanderer leading the army, few Marauder horsemen in the vanguard, with some ice wolves to back them up. We've got the Beasts of Tashnar along with some skin wolves here for some anti-large, a couple of javelins fulfilling that role as well, and some Marauder spearmen in the front line, so quite a bit of anti-large actually. With mere Bale, Fiend of Shadows, looking for Pit of Shades, Melkos mystifying Miasma. We've got Nurgle from the Phoenix King here. He's got a Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle here on the Rot Beast. Let's see. No, just regular horse mount. A Rotting Riders. He's got some Chaos Knights and some Marauders as a front line. Yeah, Furies in the Sky. Not any Marauder Horsemen of his own, which is definitely an interesting choice. The Marauder Horsemen, I mean, he looks like one throwing axe here, two regular Marauder Horsemen. The Nurgle ones are also the throwing axe variant, which do actually have a shield. It gives them a small missile block chance. Can make them good-ish at counter-skirmishing, although they're still relatively limited in terms of range and missile speed, but nice armor-piercing damage, certainly. And all that would also apply to the Nurgle Horsemen, who also, carry poison damage and additional melee defense, making them a decent light cavalry for tying units down, running down skirmishers, such. But alas, none of them were brought. Instead, it's an all-melee army here from Nurgle, so he's definitely going to be pressured to approach to a degree. I mean, it is Conquest, of course, so right now Phoenix King has taken the objective, and we're going to see a little bit of a skirmish phase. Very rare in modern Total War, but a prolonged skirmish phase here as the Marauder Horsemen kind of soften up some various targets. Shooting at regular Nurgle Marauders is going to be something you can do, but, I mean, it is the cheapest unit in Nurgle's army. They're not super cheap by low-tier troop standards by any means, but eventually we're going to get a melee engagement developing here in the center as the Mammoth chunks through those infantry. Going to be pressuring these cavalry here, and quite a lot of Chaos Knights. Yeah, for Nurgle here. You can see the Rotting Riders and the Chaos Knights moving in, but this whole time the War Shrine is going to be charging up its power. It's up to 20% physical resistance and a vigor buff. Very, very strong for a sustained build, especially like with these Skin Wolves, who already have a passive regeneration trait, makes them that much tankier. The Rotting Riders here, Chaos Knights, obviously able to crush some Spearmen, but do get hit by a Pit of Shades there in the meantime. Very cost-effective from the Shadow Caster Famir here. He's already got good 780 value from a couple of casts, so very good stuff for Lore of Shadows. Meanwhile, Lore of Nurgle, oh, he's actually just on foot. Okay, I should have noticed from the speed. But, yeah, he's also getting some value on some Streams of Corruption. Not quite getting quite the same. But most of the Marauder Spearmen have been dealt with. A lot of the support troops as well, like these Marauder Horsemen, have used up most of their ammunition. Some of them are on the run, but here in the center, the Mammoth and Wulfric and his Skin Wolves do have a little bit of spear support still. These spears in particular with the extra leadership and physical resistance from the War Shrine will be able to help continuously in this fight for quite some time. And the Nurgle troops, Lances will be relying a lot on their charge bonus. Doesn't look like they've been able to super effectively cycle charge so far. Another nasty Pit of Shades coming in here. That's going to impact like a lot of the Nurgle troops that are still on the field. So pretty brutal stuff there. But Rotting Riders, can sustain quite a bit of damage here with their own regeneration trait. They are the main anti-large piece, so they kind of need to conserve, although right now they're taking massive damage from the Mammoth's attack animations. I don't know exactly what their attack order is on here either, but it doesn't look like they're getting super effective damage on Wulfric or the Mammoth or the Skin Wolves, for that matter. Of course, physical resistance goes a big part of that. You can see here with that bonus, Skin Wolves are up to 40% physical resistance, so yeah, Rotting Riders, they did have magical attacks, that's right. I forget, as a regiment renowned, they do have those sweet magic attacks, so we'll be cutting through the physical resistance, but even still, just not really, again, I don't know what their targeting is exactly, not able to get through and cut to the right targets. But let's see, they're going to pull back here. Try and re-engage on some targets where they can maybe replenish a little bit, but Yeah, the armor sundering from the Bale fiend here is actually quite nice in order to help like the skin wolves and the spears, both non-armor piercing primary damage with some anti-large, tearing away the armor with that armor sundering base attack from the Famir helps those other units trade that much more effectively. So it's one reason why you see Marauder Shamans quite a bit. They're decent for sure, and especially on the chariot. More so in the past, although these days the chariot can be a decent option, but the Bale Fiends in particular definitely need to be respected. That armor sundering, not the best combat characters in the world, but they've got pretty good weapon strength at 400 with 320 AP. And yeah, it's going to be pretty quickly a rout once those Rotting Riders go down. So yeah, very interesting for sure. Phoenix King here, maybe expecting more of an infantry composition. I'm not curious about the pick of the heavy cavalry here, and maybe he can enlighten us in the comments down below. But for me, like thinking through targets you might be worried about for Norsca, I don't know really what the Chaos Knights do for you here that you wouldn't get from like folding this value into maybe just 3 Rot Knights instead and going with yeah, maybe with some skirmish potential of your own here. It's pretty tricky, but the Mammoths, yeah, ended up not getting a ton of raw value in and of itself, but that support value from the yeah, from the aura, the physical resist aura and everything. But the Famir Bale Fiend in particular, massive value on some Pits of Shades. It's a spell that has seen a lot of use over the years, especially in Warhammer 3, like in Domination and so forth. These days, still extremely effective when you can catch these higher value cavalry units in it. Yeah, definitely proved to be quite potent here. And the Skin Wolves also get some pretty cost-effective value as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Nurgle expert by any means, and the Rotting Riders definitely seem like a very solid choice. But, yeah, in terms of anti-large units, they don't have access to any, like, halberds or anything. Not that I think you would necessarily want halberd infantry here, but, yeah. Yeah, the Chaos Knights and the Lance Knights and the regular Knights, again, I'm just not 100% sure what exactly they do for you here, but on the flip side, I'm not sure what would be best to take in their place. Yeah, the Marauder Horsemen here, like I said, they get a little bit of extra melee defense, less melee attack, but versus they are a little bit less cost-effective. I guess the Norscan ones are paying for their Enrage passive as well, so... or Rage even. 600 for them, and... yeah, still 650 for the Marauder Horsemen of Nurgle, so it is slightly less cost-effective in general, and especially if you're coming up against the Javelins, like the Missile Block chance might help you a little bit of extra HP never hurts, but in general, it's a little bit tricky in that way. But, yeah, I mean, for Norsca, their monsters are definitely quite scary, and Nurgle, you do have, like, the Regiment of Renowned Giant here, but this thing will absolutely get pincushioned by, like, javelins and so forth, so not exactly an easy one for sure. I might have to sit down and kind of theorycraft around this matchup, but in a high-level game, definitely pretty scary what SPB was able to do there. And yeah, the combination of that War Shrine Mammoth, a lot of these Norscan units, like we looked at Skin Wolves already, they have just base physical resistance of 20%, so you juice that up even more. It gets quite strong. Of course, the Mammoth itself also getting the physical resistance is pretty huge, given that it has such a massive HP pool as well. It's tough to get through, especially for a faction with relatively limited missiles like Nurgle. Yeah, I mean, the Death's Heads are really not going to do a lot for you here. In particular, throwing axes, if they're able to get good contact on the Mammoth, will do some damage to it, but they don't really have enough volume of ammo, I don't think, especially if they're taking losses from other sources. Might not be able to have enough to actually land home enough shots to make a difference. Hard to say. Of course, Norsca doesn't have access to any healing, so you won't be having to worry about that too much, but definitely an interesting one. You guys will have to let me know in the comments down below. That does officially eliminate Phoenix King from the tournament, so we've got one more quarterfinals matchup to go over, and then we're moving on to the semis, and yes, the finals. So the end is near. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.